welcome to another Saturday morning Samoflange. I'm Matt, and that's it. I'm done. Alright, so today I wanted to talk about, it's all about streaming, right? We have HBO Max, we have Netflix, I think the Peacock is NBC's one, CBS has one, everyone has their own streaming services, and that's where the world is going now. It's going streaming. Bye-bye cable. In fact, I won't even miss cable once streaming takes fully control of our lives. Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus, you name it. There is a streaming service for it. Even Tubi, free streaming if you want to do that. I don't know how they get away with it, but the app's on my Xbox, so it must be legit. But there's tons of little streaming apps. Even there's some children's streaming apps. I was thinking, what was it called? One called Amoeba that has different kind of shows on there that I used to watch as a kid, and then it has all the We Sing videos that I know my little brothers watched as a kid that I would kind of like to see once because my sister used to watch those stupid We Sing videos all the time. And they have them all, and I was like, well, I could, try it for 30 days, keep it for $3 a month if I wanted to, and maybe my girls would like that. So the world is going streaming. That's the truth of it. Now, there's going to be one streaming service will eventually die out. Like YouTube doesn't seem to be making any waves. Neither does Apple TV or the DC Universe. They're kind of limping along. But we have so many people streaming so many things. You would think that everything and anything can be streamed, but you are wrong. They cannot. There are certain shows and movies or so that just do not have an outlet now for streaming. And so what I wanted to do today was talk about the top 5 things, usually shows. I do have one movie as my number 5. But top 5 things that aren't available on streaming today. Now, looking over this list, am I going to the obscure? Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. Like when I think about this, I don't think my TV shows go more than 2 seasons. I don't think any of them do. Well, the last one may go to season 3. So they either go 1 season or 2. And the movie is not that big of a movie, even though you've heard of it. You maybe not have heard of this version of it. So, and it's been these are movies and TV shows for the most part that I think have been available on DVD, or well, not all of them have either. So, but they're not as obscure as you would think, is what I'm trying to get to. So, what are those things? I wanted to do 5 TV shows, but I couldn't think of a 5th TV show. I mean, I thought of all 4 of these right off the bat. And then I started looking around online. I couldn't find any of them that I agreed with online because a lot of them I didn't know. And then I thought, okay, what's one? And then I thought about movies real quick. And I was like, well, there is one movie I'm trying to see, but I can't find it anywhere streaming. Anywhere. And so I added that as my 5th one. It may be kind of a cheat, but, I just couldn't think of other movies. Because like I said, every movie, TV show these days is streaming. But these 5 are not, and that's what I want to talk about today. Alright, so here we go on number 5. Return of the King. That's right. An Elvis documentary. No, I'm kidding. That's not what it is. It is one of Tolkien's movies from Return of the King. Not the one that's so famous by Peter Jackson, of which I despise. But I'm talking about the cartoon version, Return of the King. Now, I have been able to find, streaming, the Lord of the Rings, a cartoon from the 70s, and The Hobbit, which came out, I believe, in the 70s as well. And they were supposed to make a Return of the King one. And they did, but it was way later, I think. They made Lord of the Rings first, which Lord of the Rings came with 2 towers. And then the second half was going to be the rest of 2 towers and Return of the King. But for some reason, they lost the rights. And it's been decades since I'd seen it. I just recently watched it a few months ago. And I thought, oh, wow. Well, whoever took the rights from them, they made The Hobbit, and then they did Return of the King, kind of the conclusion. But they skipped over the rest of the 2 Towers storyline because they didn't want to confuse people too much, I think, is the story. They said, well, let's just start on book 3 then. Since I guess they thought 2 Towers, starting in the middle of 2 Towers, was not a perfect place to start. But they wanted to finish off that trilogy that was set forth by the other company that did the Lord of the Rings movie. Now, are these movies great? No, they're not great. It's the art is a little weird because it's got that the Lord of the Rings art has people, and they just basically drew over those people to make the animation look really good. But you can tell. I can't remember. There was a movie, a Scanner Darkly, maybe it was what it's called, where they kind of drew over the characters. The artist drew over the characters, and it does make it look a little bit lifelike. And I bet back in the day you were watching, going, "Wow, this is an awesome cartoon. They look like people." Well, yeah, they are. They just kind of put a shade over them. I don't even know what that process is called, but that's what they did. But the story is all right, and it falls closer to the books. It follows the books a lot closer than Peter Jackson's garbage did. That's right. I do not like Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies. I despise them. I absolutely love the books. I think the books are fantastic. Just now, currently, reading through the history of Middle Earth, and for the second time ever. And you got to be a big fan to read through that. But I am absolutely loving Middle Earth. I love everything about it. So, hated the new movies, but I watched these cartoons, and they were bearable. They're fine. They skip a lot of things, but oh well, you can't help that, right? Watched The Hobbit, enjoyed The Hobbit a lot, remember singing a lot of the songs. The Hobbit and Return of the King, we used to have the VHS tapes. These things came on VHS, and I think they came out in DVD and Blu-ray too, if I'm not mistaken. And we used to watch Hobbit and Return of the King all the time. Lord of the Rings, we borrowed from someone who had the VHS a long time ago, and then I never watched it again until recently. I saw it. I was like, oh, cool. So I saw that one streaming. I saw The Hobbit streaming, and I didn't see Return of the King. I was like, well, that's weird. If they have The Hobbit, they should have Return of the King. So I, emailed their customer service. I said, hey, I see you have this one. Return of the King was also made around the same time by the same company. Do you not have that, or is that coming out later? I said, we're sorry. We are unable to offer that program to you or whatever. Some generic message meaning no. They do not have it, and they would not be streaming it. And I cannot find it anywhere. YouTube has like little snippets, and that's it. But nobody has this one. And I was like, come on. And I just want to finish it because I watched the first two, I think, earlier this year, and I enjoyed them. And I wanted to see Return of the King because I have a lot of good memories about watching Return of the King. I watched that as much as I watched the Hobbit one because we had those VHS tapes. Now, I don't think Mom and Dad still have those VHS tapes anymore, and if they did, I don't think they'd work. And I'm not really into buying it. I think it costs like 20-something bucks on Amazon, but I don't want to buy it. I would like to, just watch it once and probably be done with it. But I would like to see it streaming. And I'm kind of shocked on this one because this is one dealing with Lord of the Rings. You think anything Lord of the Rings, like what is it? CBS All Access has the old Star Trek cartoon from the 70s, which I think is brilliant. And there's a few other places I think have it too. But the old 70s streaming cartoon for Star Trek, surprisingly, is really good. It's written by the art's not, the animation's not good, but the stories are good because they're written by the people who wrote Star Trek episodes. And it's not a cartoon for kids at all. Unless you think Satan coming onto this pilgrim world, is a great story for, Saturday afternoon. They actually fight Satan or a personification of him. You're like, wait, what? This is a children's cartoon? Yeah, man, the 70s. Anything goes. So anyway, I just thought that was weird that, especially, I can't remember what streaming service it was earlier this year that had two of them but didn't have Return of the King. And for the life of me, can't find it anywhere. Would absolutely love to see Return of the King again. But I guess it'll be the next day after never before I do. Anyway, so my number 4. Oh, folks. My number 4 is a big one. This is a cartoon I used to watch as a kid, and it was called Superbook. Now, Superbook is a children's cartoon about this robot who's like a wind-up robot, and these 3 kids, older brother, middle sister, and little brother, and they're going through the stories in the Old Testament. It's probably garbage. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. The show probably sucks. And they made a New Testament show called The Flying House. The robot looks a little bit lamer, in my opinion, but basically has the same premise. A boy, a girl, and a baby boy. And they're going through the New Testament, though. Now, I didn't care about Flying House. We didn't watch Flying House that much. But, man, we did watch some Superbook. I love the theme song from Superbook. I know they did a reboot of Superbook or whatever. But, man, that old original robot just looks so cool to me. He's just so iconic. He's this big, barrel-chested robot with a big yellow cross, bolted into his chest. And like I said, I bet the stories are very hokey and everything, but we would gobble up the Superbook one, the Old Testament one. There was a magic book that took them back in time, right, to ancient Bible days. And you'd learn a little Bible lesson while you were there, and the kids would help out sometimes. The person in distress, whether it's Noah or whatever, I don't even recall if they had an Adam and Eve episode, but that would have been awkward. But they were going through all the big moments in the Bible and everything. And I don't know, we just really loved that back in the day. I should also mention a video game that I really loved was Bible Adventures. Oh, gosh. And to be honest, it's a super fun Nintendo game. Honestly. Not even making fun of it. We had people that weren't churchgoers. We had kids come over that weren't churchgoers, and they would ask to play Bible Adventures. Because there's this one, it's like 3 games in one. And one was David, one was Joseph. And David was okay. He was the weakest. That was the one you're fighting Philistines with a sling, and then you had to fight Goliath at the end. You're thinking, oh, that should be the best. It should have been the best, but it wasn't. Joseph, you're collecting grain and grapes, and you're collecting food before the famine, which is nice. But the one about Noah's Ark is fantastic. Picking up different animals, you gotta get 2 of each animal, find them around the forest. There's a time limit, I think, because it's slowly getting darker and then starting to rain, and you're trying to gather all these animals in time. Now you're losing your life is these commandments that break apart and fall apart one at a time. So then you got 6 hits and you're done. A hit can be from a snake on a tree when you're going up trees, or there are monkeys that are throwing coconuts at you, and you got to avoid the monkeys. And the monkey, it's a funny thing, I think you can hit him with a coconut. No, you can. I think you hit him with a coconut or another animal and knock him out. Anyway, you can grab these coconuts and throw them at different people, and like a cow, and knock out a cow. He'll turn upside down, like sleep for a while, and you can pick him up. Noah is super strong, man. He can hold like 3 cows on top of each other as he's going, or 2 cows and a horse or whatever. And you're like, dang, who has this strength? When did Noah get Samsonite strength here? But I remember that game was so cool. And on my little Nintendo Mini, my buddy of mine broke it and downloaded all these games. I said, dude, the 2 games I want, Double Dribble and Bible Adventures. He said, you got it. And the only 2 games that are not on that system are Bible Adventures and Double Dribble. It's almost like he said, I'll get you everything but those. Oh, no, and then there's another one I asked for. King's Knight, I think, was an old Nintendo game we had. He didn't have that one either. I mean, seriously, he had every single stinking game on there but those. It was incredible. But anyway, I'm getting way off topic there. Superbook, that would be my number 4. All right, my number 3 is, I don't think it's cheating because both of these are basically tied to the hip. And they are the Droids and Ewoks cartoons. Now, I put them together because I thought, if I name one, everyone knows the next one's coming up. So I would have named Droids first, then Ewoks right after it. But to be honest, they could be gone together. Now, the thing that shocks me why it's not streaming, Disney Plus, man, they should be rolling out with Star Wars stuff. And who cares if they're older cartoons? Go ahead and play them. I'm really surprised that they're not playing the old Clone Wars cartoon, the Tartakovsky. That would be nice to stream, but I have all those. I do have Droids and Ewoks on BCD. I think it plays on my old Xbox, which is why I keep it around. And then I have some kind of AnyPlayer app on my laptop that'll play them. But I really want a nice DVD collection set of both of these. First off, if you don't know, Droids only went 1 season. I think it had 1 movie or giant episode called The Great Heat, but basically went 1 season. And it did star Anthony Daniels as the voice of C-3PO, the guy who played him in the movies. And I never watched this show growing up, never even heard about it. In fact, I don't even think it was playing in my area. I don't think it was. I know Ewoks was, because we watched Ewoks back in the day, but not Droids. And watching Droids is okay. The most interesting thing when you're watching Droids, in my opinion, is all of the things that you see in Droids, you will see again, most likely, or hear about in the prequels. And you're thinking, holy cow, George borrowed heavily from Droids, which Droids is some of you know is expanded universe material. And you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he loved that Droids cartoon so much that he copied everything. What I mean? Grievous's little cycle, his little unicycle he drives off on, escaping Obi-Wan in the second movie, that is first featured in Droids. Races on Malastare, pod races, except they weren't pod races. They were like little speeder races. But Malastare is mentioned first in Droids. The Moons of Bogdan, which is where Jango Fett says that he met his client, was on the Moons of Bogdan. That is also explored in the Droids cartoon. You're like, oh my gosh, 1985, they called, or 80, I think it was 85. They called it. Droids had all this stuff that was going to be in the prequels. I can't remember. I think there's a few other things from that TV show that was in the that later on ended in the prequels. And the reason for that happenstance isn't as far-fetched as you think. What happened is when the creators started writing for Droids, George opened the vaults and said, hey, here's some ideas I had but didn't get to use. And obviously he picked back up that vault again and looked at those ideas and said, I'm going to use these ideas, these names for like the Moons of Bogdan, races on Malastare, the unicycle for Grievous. All these ideas he just reused for the prequels. Well, Droids, the writers and animators of Droids got to look at that years ago, and this is where George shows some shred of continuity by what he says here. But yeah, he had a lot of that stuff already thought out, and Droids just used it first. And George was fine with that. And I bet George didn't even realize that the stuff he was using was in Droids. A lot of it was already used for Droids. But Droids came out, had a snazzy little jingle at the beginning, as the R2-D2 and C-3PO are flying around the galaxy, going on crazy adventures. And by the way, you're thinking, where in the timeline does this fit, Matt? Well, it's in between episodes 3 and 4. Somewhere in there, R2-D2 and C-3PO have all these marvelous adventures that are not explained in the Droids comic book by Dark Horse. There was a Droids cartoon comic book series by Marvel that got reprinted by Dark Horse later on, and it's okay. But like I said, I never was really tied to Droids, but I'd like to see it streaming because I don't see it streaming anywhere. The other half of that is the Ewoks cartoon. Now, folks, I watched the Ewoks cartoon religiously. We loved the Ewoks cartoon. We would play Ewoks all the time outside, because we had some woods outside, so why couldn't that be indoor, right? And we always played as Ewoks. The Ewoks were so awesome. It went for a second season. We were super happy. And then supposedly, though, the ratings were really low for it. And this should have been the heyday. I think this is 86, 87, and they had 2 TV movies that came out in 84 and 85. And then for 86, 87, just kind of pushing it. I guess it had been 3 or 4 years since Return of the Jedi. And people were just getting tired of Ewoks. I mean, I wasn't. I saw Return of the Jedi when I was 6. So 3, 4 years later, I'm 10 years old, and I'm still loving them little fur balls. But either way, I did love that cartoon, and I so wish that it was on streaming. Yes, I've seen it before. I even got to meet one of the artists from Ewoks. I used to work at DirecTV, and I set him up for DirecTV. And the only reason I knew who he was is I'd recently, at the time, been watching Ewoks at night. Before I went to bed, I'd pop in a few episodes of Ewoks and watch and laugh because it was kind of silly. And during the credits, this guy's name would always pop up. Well, lo and behold, he's my customer one morning on the phone. And I'm sitting up with DirecTV. I said, sir, I'm sorry. I'm going to ask you just a really crazy question here. But did you ever used to work on cartoons? Did you ever work on a cartoon show? He went, yes. Like, he was kind of surprised. I went, yeah, you were one of the animators for Ewoks, right? He went, how on earth did you know that? He was just shocked. He went, I've never, he said, I said, well, I was watching it last night, and I just remember seeing your name on the credits. He went, you see it? It's playing on TV? This is back before digital. And I was like, oh, no, I just have some extra copies. He went, oh, they came out on, DVD? I was like, let's change the subject here. I said, no, anyway, I just, because I bought some pirated copies. And I said, yeah, well, anyway, I said, I don't know. I said, but I saw it, and I saw your name. He goes, yeah, that's me. And he told me about working for the company. It was a lot of fun. The company that handled that, and I believe the Droids cartoon, were out of Canada, Vancouver, if I'm not mistaken. And he said, yeah, he worked on, it was Novella? I don't even know if I'm saying the name right. But we started talking. He was so happy. He said, okay, well, look, hey, what's your name and everything? He's like, okay, well, he said, I can send you. He had some cartoon sales from the actual cartoon. He said, "What's your address? I'll send you one." I was like, "Shut up!" And I gave him my address, and sure enough, in the mail, a week or so later, came a letter addressed to me, and I opened up the middle of the envelope, and out popped it. It was an animation sale of TiVo, if I'm not mistaken. It's up in my closet. I should try to look for that again. But it's an actual animated sale from the Ewoks cartoon. One of my prized possessions. Absolutely love it. But anyway, and I remember they changed the song from the Ewoks in season 1 and season 2. It used to be, "We are the Ewoks, where the spirits of the forest grow," or something like that. And then they changed it for season 2, or that may be season 2's motto. But I remember going, "Oh no, they changed the theme song. Why would they do that?" I love the Ewoks. It was awesome. Awesome show. But it's not streaming anywhere, and I really wish it was, because I miss that cartoon, man. Like I said, it's not the best cartoon, and again, Marvel made comic books based off the cartoon that Dark Horse, again, put in the collection. Actually, they put in one big omnibus with the Droids comic books. And I remember just when that came in, I would take long walks around the neighborhood, just to get exercise, but then I'd have my head stuck in that book reading Droids and Ewoks. And it was embarrassing because there would be other walkers saying, "Hey, what you reading?" And I was like, "Droids and Ewoks comic book." They're like, "Oh, you're a man-child," and they just keep walking. No, anyway, but I would love to have seen. I still want to see those streaming in some fashion. I'm really pulling on you, Disney Plus. I really would love to see those streaming. I think they'd be a big hit with people, and kids or families with little kids would love to play those too. Anyway, Droids and Ewoks cartoons, my number 3. My number 2 is one that I know the missus would have, and it probably would be her number 1, I would say. I don't know. She watched a lot of random TV shows back in the day, so it may not be her number 1. I'm going to ask her after this, but I know this would be up in her top 5 because it is one that we both would love to see. The show is called Ennis, and Ennis is a spinoff of Dukes of Hazzard. Ennis was one of the deputies, the really nice, kind deputy. And when Dukes of Hazzard was in its heyday, I mean, it was bringing in the numbers. They wanted to spin off a character, but they didn't know who to do. Well, Ennis was someone that they thought was lovable and could hold his own show. And they said, "Okay, we'll give you your own show." Now, I actually talked to Sonny Schreider, who played Ennis, and asked him about this. I said, "Hey, we really want to see your show." He's like, "Me too." He said, "Man, we had a good run." He said, "But you know what?" He said, "I never wanted to leave Dukes of Hazzard." He said, "I did not want to do it." And that's why in his contract, he said, "Okay, I'll go do this show. But if it doesn't work out, you have to bring me back to Dukes of Hazzard." And they said, "Okay." And Ennis went for 1 season, got canceled. And sure enough, he got to come back, which is kind of wild because, he already had, I think Cletus was his replacement deputy assistant or whatever. And then it had Cletus and Ennis. They had extra cast members back. You're like, "Oh, that's just too many cops now." But in kind of the same bumbling cop routine. But they did that because Sonny Schreider had it in his contract that he could come back to Dukes of Hazzard if the show didn't work out. But supposedly the premise was he moved to the big city, became a cop. He's kind of, redneck hillbilly type. He's still got some Dukes of Hazzard County in him. And he loves to ramp his car and do big jumps, So it's kind of like that, but without the excitement. It's 2 policemen, nerdy policemen doing it, not 2 cool people in a nice hip car, cruising down at 100 miles per hour and ramping over things. It's a cop car going after villains. So I can see where the appeal was lost there. And in it always began with Ennis writing a letter to Daisy because he was in love with Daisy. It began with, he said, "Dear Daisy," and then it'd end off with him writing or his. I think it had a voiceover of him just writing about it. He'd always mail the letter off to send it Daisy, or he was going to, I guess. Well, the only reference to that TV show was in their first reunion movie they did. After Boss Hogg died, I can't remember what his name was, Peter Sorrell. When he passed away, they all gathered at his funeral, and then they all started talking about the good days and how they, missed doing the show. And so, of course, I can't remember who it was, CBS or ABC or NBC said, "Hey, we'll do a reunion show." Because back then, reunion shows were really big. So they did a Return to Hazzard or whatever, a Return to Hazzard County. It's not that good. To be honest, it's nice to see everyone, but it's not that good. And but Enos comes up to Daisy and goes, "Hey Daisy, I mailed you all. I wrote all these letters to you, but I didn't mail them." And that's the joke from his TV show they wanted to put in there, which I thought was funny. Now the movies are okay. The second one after that, I think what's his name? Uncle Jesse. I can't think of the actor's name now. Denver, I think. John Denver, was it? No, that's not right. Anyway, he died, and then the crew was thinking, you know what? It's just not the same without these guys, so let's not do it anymore. And that's why they stopped doing TV movies. Supposedly they were getting in good ratings, and the ratings people were like, hey, well, you can do another movie, and they went, nah, we're losing some of our favorite characters. It's not the same, so they stopped doing them. But even though you can get those TV movies on DVD, you still can't get their spinoff. And that always bothered me, why you could not get the spinoff. Oh man, and I would watch it. I bet it's not as good, but you'd still want to watch it, especially if you're a Dukes of Hazzard fan. All right, so what is my numero uno? Well, this one is simple. It's going to be The Tick. Yeah, the cartoon. If you remember the old '90s cartoon, The Tick, man, that humor in that Tick cartoon was right up my alley. It's still funny. And even though you buy the complete DVD set, it's not complete. It's missing episodes from some writer. Supposedly there was something in his contract they'd have to pay him extra if these cartoons went to home video or something. And so that's why they're not putting them in there, because they don't want to pay him or something like this. I'm kind of confused over that, but that's kind of what I gathered by reading things. But you can't find it streaming either, and I wish you could, because I'd love to stream those. Now, I used to have those on VCD, but I don't think they work anymore on anything, because it was one of the old VCDs. But I really wish I could watch them again, because they were so funny. They had so many great characters, like Wombat Man and Chairface as the bad guy. And whatever happened in previous cartoons, there was a strong continuity between the cartoons. Chairface tried to write his name in the moon one time. He got to CHA before the Tick beat him. Well, now in every cartoon following that, the moon always has a CHA on it. Later on, some big Galactus ripoff takes a bite out of the moon. Well, from then on out, the moon has CHA and a bite out of it for every cartoon. So there's continuity there. You guys know how much I love continuity. So to me, it was just a perfect cartoon. And I'm just so sad that this cartoon is not on any streaming service. The live action one that was a long time ago was okay. Back in the early 2000s, I think it was. And then, of course, the one on Amazon was fantastic. I can't believe, I'm shocked they canceled it. But I guess they got The Boys now, and that's what they want to go with. But that Tick TV show on Amazon Prime was actually the best thing to watch. Even better than The Boys. And I enjoyed The Boys, and I'll watch season 2 of The Boys. But that Tick show was really good on Amazon Prime. I'm so disappointed that they canceled it. But the classic cartoon is just so good, and I wish someone would put it back on streaming. But until then, I'll have to find some more VCDs, I guess, or those knockoffs. Next time I go to a Comic-Con, that is definitely what I'm going to buy. Because, there's always that guy at the booth selling it. Now, they don't have, they may have Droids and Ewoks. I'm sure they don't have Superbook. They may have Return of the King, and no one has Enos. I've even asked. One guy goes, you tell me what you want, and I'll get it for you. If it only went one season back in the 70s, I got it. Or so he was saying, and I said, okay, this one. He went, huh? And he'd never heard of it. He's like, are you sure that was the name? I said, yeah. And all this braggadocious, he couldn't find it anywhere because, no one recorded them back then. And I guess CBS or whoever owns the rights to it doesn't have it anymore, or doesn't think it's worth anything. No one knows. Even when we go to Hazard reunions, they can't even tell you why. Sonny Schreider doesn't know what happened to the series and why they didn't put it on DVD. He said, all I know is, he said, they're missing out on a ton of money, because everyone asked me that question. Where is that series? They want to see it, because a lot of fans just didn't get to see it. There's younger fans like me who just missed it when it came out, but now we're interested in seeing it. So, man, woulda, shoulda, coulda. But with all these streaming services and they're dying for content, you think somebody would put two and two together to put these apart. Besides Superbook, it's not a far stretch that all of these have a following, and people would want to see them. But hey, that's my top 5 shows. What about you? Are there shows that I missed? They've got to be odd and unique, right? But I would love to hear them. All right, folks. Well, that is it. That's all the time I have for now. I will see you next time on more Saturday Morning Samoflange. Oh, I gotta go to the bathroom.